Hey, it's Robert, audiobook narrator with my son Leo, and we want to show you what goes into narrating your own audiobook. So basically, I would love to narrate your book for a number of reasons. You don't have to put in the time, figure it all out, but if you insist on narrating your own audiobook, I have a couple of guides here. So the first is, well, what equipment? Which equipment do I use? And I don't mind about the background noise right now because we're making a tutorial. So to record, if you have your own like condenser microphone, if you're a podcaster, great. If you don't know, basically I recommend a Samsung C01U microphone. It's $65, and then a $35 arm that just clamps to your desk. And I always end up just sort of showing it. So what we have here, oops, I guess I better switch to that. So what we have here is, here's the Samsung microphone, and then here's the arm, and then right here it just kind of like turns and clamps to the desk, and so you don't have to like bolt anything, but that's how you end up with a setup, which I like on a podcast where my microphone's just up here, you don't see it, and it sounds okay. And so back to this. Oh yeah, so the other thing is that when you speak, you want to avoid echoes, and echo is when the sound hits and bounces back. And so on the other wall, so here's me looking at you and facing you in the computer. You can see up above the wall, there's all these like squares, and they just come in like a pack of like 40 or 50. And they're just these squares, and you peel off a little. I have 14 minutes, that's right. You peel off the adhesive, and it sticks to the wall, and you can cover. Okay, go check it out. It sticks to the wall, and it takes care of echoes, does not take care of a 6-year-old. And then the software that we use is called Audacity Recorder, which just looks like this, and you click the record button, and you speak, and it's straightforward once you set it up. And so I would love to meet with you and walk you through setting up the software, testing out the levels to make sure that they are okay enough. And then the other document I share once we're in and once we start meeting, I'll go through these steps when we meet, but I'll give you the steps ahead of time. And hey, if you are enterprising enough, and if you can do this on your own, great, more power to you. But this is what we would do potentially if we met. I would explain that you record each track in a different, or each chapter in a different track. You record the opening credits, closing credits, and retail sample. And then you create the accounts at ACX. Come on in. ACX, which gets us to Audible. And then Voices by In Audio, which gets us onto Spotify. And I promise when we meet, there won't be as much chaos, but we're just having fun today. And what you're paying for is, sure, I'm meeting with you to figure out the process, but you can just record it like any which way you want. So if you want to speak your book all the way and you mess up, or if a 6-year-old talks, you can just clap your hands, and then I'll notice it later and I'll edit out that part of it. And so if you can just set up Audacity, and technically if you just set this up, if you didn't even know what you were doing, if you just clicked record and said, Chapter 1, the basics of trading on the stock market. And what we would do is, a big part of our first meeting is to make sure that you get Audacity set up. And they're always adding to it. There are always things we need to shut off. So I'll show you things like how to choose the proper recording device. Seems simple enough, but if you're using this unfamiliar software, you might say, I'm talking, but it's not showing up. Sometimes you record and this barely shows up, or it's too much on the edge. So I would be there to make sure that it records properly. And we would set up your microphone in quiet space, and Audible will accept a lot. Just the big thing is you don't want like cars honking, and you don't want mouse clicks. They hate those. And you want to avoid echoes. That's the biggest offender. But whatever you send me, I'll clean up the mistakes and long pauses. I'll create the square cover because normally a book cover is rectangle and they just want it in square. And I don't want you to install a bunch of Audacity add-ons because in order to process this into Audible standards, it's like a whole thing. Like if you want me to geek out here, we can say analyze this and see it gives it all this just to say clip fails to meet ACX requirements. And then if I were to process this, I would save the file and I would run my macro and I would run all this stuff. I would run like noise reduction, noise gate, filter, RMS, all these steps in order to keep all the attributes within the levels that Audible ACX wants. So anyways, you don't need to use headphones, and if you make a mistake, just pause and keep going, and I'll listen to the whole thing and edit out the mistakes. So we use this Samsung C01U microphone. We use the microphone arm that clamps to your desk. So something else that comes up when I have done these meetings is they say, well, don't I have to like be right up against the microphone? You can be 6 to 12 inches away from it. For some reason, I don't know if it's because of like stage performers, they're used to just having it right up by their mouth. You can be 6 to 12 inches away, and like if you're too close, there might be like breathing or like the pop and all that, but you don't even need all this fancy equipment, because if you've gone elsewhere on YouTube and said, well, what's the equipment I need for an audiobook, they'll give you a list of like 15 things. And to be honest, 815 books recorded on Audible, all I use is just the microphone and then the arm to clamp it, and I probably wouldn't even need the foam padding. It just helps a little bit. Biggest enemies: barking dogs, air conditioning, fans. I would say also, so if you are self-recording, record in 15-minute blocks. If your book is, well, so the word count of your book is 9,000 words is about an hour, right? So you do the math. If your book is 45,000 words, it will be 5 hours of talking, and it will take you longer than that because of the mistakes, but I really highly recommend that you only record in 15-minute blocks. If you record in 5 and 10-minute blocks, it'll just feel like this will be a forever project. And if you record like, oh, I'll just knock out like 2 hours at once, you'll be really tired and really inconsistent. So do 15 minutes at a time, do like one chapter at a time, and then your energy level will remain good and high because you will be able to keep coming back to it. And as far as like the delivery, I think we talk about it later on, but I would, in general, just try to speak, say, 20% slower than you normally would to a friend in person, and try to like project your voice like 20% a little bit louder and just emote a little bit more, whatever it is you're narrating, right? Fiction, nonfiction. The cliche is that if you were like in the school play as a kid, you really had to like overact and over dramatic so that way it showed up to the person, the audience watching. So similar idea with audiobooks, just like project and emote a little more than seems natural, and that's just how I've narrated audiobooks. So go to acx.com, and this will get your book onto Audible. And so for not 90%, but maybe like 80% of everyone I'm doing an audiobook for, I say just get on Audible. Audible's fine. ACX.com is Amazon and Audible's distribution site. So I will log in, and all you have to do, just create the ACX.com account and verify your business details. And don't claim the book or anything else. Just make the account, enter your business tax ID, and that will allow me to log in and send your book to Audible, which gets it on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. And then if you want to be on other platforms, so if you want to be on Spotify, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, you'll get less royalty commission from Audible, but you can also be on those platforms. So if you're someone that says, I don't care how much money the audiobook makes, I just want to be on more platforms, then I can then just set up both of these accounts for me. Set up your voices.inaudio.com, and that will get us on Spotify, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Google Books, places like that. And similar idea, just set up these two accounts, Don't claim any books, just set up the profile. And then when I meet with you, we'll install Audacity. And you just Google search Audacity, and don't get like the web version, get the desktop version. And then once we install this, there's just a few settings to change. So let's figure that out. We're figuring a few things out. That's correct. So what we'll do, if I can get these side by side for you, we'll be going to Edit, Preferences.
I want a bottle.
Yeah?
I want a bottle.
Well, Edit, Preferences, Tracks, Track Behavior, and then set the solo button to simple. And then as you open this up, I've already said no. I've already said no to it, but by default, it says like, do you want to do all this cloud stuff? Yeah, and here's where it is. In the settings, there's the cloud tab, and just always save to the computer. Don't show how to export. Just keep it simple, right? Keep like, why does the cloud have to be in everything? It really doesn't. And then what we do is the audio setup. And so and that's pretty much all we need to set. But what we'll do is when we meet, we'll go audio setup and make sure that your microphone is plugged in, and the recording device, they always love to throw in lots of other choices. So we'll make sure that it's the correct one that we've chosen. And then what we'll do when we meet is we'll make a 15-second test recording. So you click this record button and you speak and you talk. And this is kind of what we want, right? We don't want it to be like whisper quiet, but we want it to also be far away from the edges. And then I'll listen to it very carefully. And especially when you're in between talking, listen to like hiss or fan noise or anything like that. But you just do that and you record that in 15-minute chunks. And then I'll guide you through the opening credits and the closing credits. And these are just things that Amazon needs for us to have. And so technically you can go tracks, add new, and then like go here and then record your second chapter. And technically you can have like chapter 1 here, chapter 2 there, but it's so easy to go wrong. You click one wrong button and you just get these all mixed up. So I really recommend just create a completely new separate Audacity file for each chapter. Don't worry, I'll clean up the mess. And what we'll do is we'll just make sure everything is cleared out, and then we'll read the opening credits and the closing credits and the retail sample. So let me show you what I mean. So we'll look at Danny Bader. So we'll have this. So we're looking at the title and the author name, and then the year of publication. So I guess January 14th, 2025. So we'll do A Radical Reverence for Your Life. So what we'll do is we'll record the opening credits, say the book title, written by the author name, narrated by the author name. And so here we go. This is what we'll record. We'll say, what's his book called? A Radical Reverence for Your Life, How I Learned to Live with More Joy and Wonder. A Radical Reverence for Your Life, How I Learned to Live with More Joy and Wonder. Written by Danny Bader. Narrated by Robert Plank. And then, so that's the opening credits. And you would just go File, and you would say Save Project As. And you would just save this and just call this opening credits and just send that over to me. I don't care that it's a whole project just for one file. And then we close that, and then we'll narrate the closing credits where we say this has been book title, written by author name, narrated by narrator name, and then copyright. Well, I guess, yeah, you'd be the author and the narrator. Copyright year and production copyright. So here's what we would do for this. A Radical Reverence for Your Life, How I Learned to Live with More Joy and Wonder. Written by Danny Bader. Narrated by Robert Plank. Copyright 2025, Danny Bader. Production copyright, Danny Bader. And I should say that, so it's usually your name or your company name. So sometimes I just kind of peek and I say, okay, what's the copyright date? And it says it's sole publishing, no, but it's Danny Bader. And the book says 2024, but I just saw it went live on Amazon 2025, so we'll just stick with I consider the live on Amazon to be the more official version. And then we would just take this and save project as, and you would just send me the closing credits, and then you would send me the retail sample, which is reading this part. So we click record and we'd say, and this one doesn't need any kind of title at the beginning. We just start talking. What if you stop living as if life were guaranteed? In a radical reverence for your life, best-selling author Danny Bader challenges you to shift your mindset from autopilot to awakened living. And you can hear the tape tearing in the background, but this is just to show you how it's done. And we would, narrate all that. I don't want to bore you with the whole thing. And then we would say save project as, and you would save the retail sample. And then what would happen is you would then, so that takes care of like the official minutia. They want opening credits, closing credits, retail sample, and then they want the book. And so what we would do is, so you could read the dedication page. We usually skip it, but if it's important, they won't deny you for not having it. And then you'd start reading the chapters. So if your chapter says like chapter 1, be more spirit, then read it like that. But this one just says be more spirit. And so we'll just read it like that. And so we'll close. I don't have a close button. There we go, close button. So we'll say, and so again, if it says chapter 1, be more spirit, read that. But if it just says be more spirit, read that. So every chapter we narrate has to begin with the chapter title, those exact words. So we do this. Be more spirit. Read or listen again to the quote on the previous page from Robin Williams about the power of the human spirit. Perhaps even read it aloud. Do you agree with it? I do. I admire the work, insight, and brilliance of Robin Williams. Hey, I do too. And you might have noticed there that me personally, if a book says like read this something, or hey, you're reading this book, a lot of books do that, I say like reading or listening, so that way it doesn't seem weird, but that's like an editorial choice on your part. So if we say read, I like to say read or listen. And then so you recorded that, and we then save that. And just to make sure these are in like the right order, I'll do like 01, be more spirit. And then we'll read that. And even if it's like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, then you narrate that. And then you close that. And then you start the next chapter. So like we have this like about the author, and you would just send them separately to me like that. So I had someone just a few minutes ago on LinkedIn ask, well, is it okay if I give you like one big long, super long recording? Well, I guess I can still pick through that if that's how it has to be. Now, as I said, me personally, I use consistent track names like 00, 01, opening credits, and you can name it whatever you want. Just help make sure it makes sense to me and I can rename. But I won't be anal retentive about you naming it a certain way. But now hopefully it makes sense when I mention things like opening credits, closing credits, and retail sample, and then the chapters in, and just give it to me in different files. Don't worry about tracks, I'll get all that figured out. So we really want you to send me a short test, ideally when we meet or afterwards, just so that way we're not recording hours on end that we won't be able to use. But after you send me everything, then I'll remove the mistakes and clean up the narration. We'll master the audio so that way we can meet the Audible standards. I'll export everything correctly. We'll create a square audiobook cover. And then what will happen is if you can just give me access to your ACX, then I'll do the work of claiming and uploading the files and sending them in. And then they all take about 2 weeks to then go live. And if you happen to come across things like if there's a dog bark or random noise, just clap your hands and try your best to go back a little bit and start the sentence over. That way I have a clean break. But I want to make this simple and easy for you. And I hope that we struck a good balance just now of me showing you enough of the nitty gritty, but without getting you too overwhelmed with what there is to do. But the big thing is Samsung microphone is, I like it better than a Blue Yeti, but that's just me. And an arm, that way it's kind of out, you don't knock into it. And then use Audacity, which I can walk you through when we meet, you setting it up. And then I think my camera's a little tilted there anyway, but you can record it any which way that you want and leave the hard and long and tedious work of cleaning up the mistakes, processing and uploading to Audible to me. But I want to get your audiobook online. And so hopefully you can see why I prefer to just do the whole thing and narrate it. That way it's done. But I also do understand how if you do want to self-narrate, you can. So choose your package. If you want me to meet with you and walk you through the process of the software and the steps, happy to do that. If you say, oh, no, I'm very independent and I can record it myself, I want you to just clean it up and process and upload, I have a button for that too. So let's talk. We'll have the links under this video. Hope that was helpful. And we have a surprise cameo guest, Mr. Leo Plank, 6 years old. And I'm sure in the future he will narrate his own audiobook. But for now, if you want my help narrating yours, you know where to find me. And hope you have a wonderful audiobook narration experience ahead.